Eat more chips, don't let the salad win. That's the message in terms of nature of the food maybe that we consume in Wales.
Oh, in Wrexham town they say there's a team that likes to play association football with precision. On the terraces they call, come on Nixie, hit that ball, and we're off to the second division. Oh, we'll see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you will see the vision. Top of Division 3, led by Arno Litti, we're off to the second division.
Hello and welcome to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast for one of the most recognisable flags in the Welsh football supporters universe. In a week where NASA is offering $3 million to anyone who proposes technology to solve an unusual problem, recycling poo and other human waste in space. The space agency's Lunar Recycle Challenge calls on members of the public to propose a technological means of recycling astronaut feces, urine and vomit on the moon, and during long-haul space flights. There are currently 96 bags of human waste that were left behind on the moon by astronauts from the Apollo missions, and the aim of the Lunar Recycle Challenge is to prevent adding more to that pile. The chosen technology will be put to use on future space missions, including hypothetical long-term outposts to the moon. NASA is currently reviewing the first round of proposals to decide which ones will move on to the next phase of the competition. The team who comes out on top at the end will win the $3 million. They just need to put all of it into this pod. The amount of these two recycle then spout out every week would clear a lunar city. It's Jamie and Daz. Yes, all right. I get it.
For the listener and not the viewer, I just held up a sign that said, he's finished that, because that was about the fifth take. And even Daz must have switched off at this week.
Oh, man, it was painful. It was really, really painful. Well, I've been the darling of the chat shows this week, appearing on the live session of the Local Pundit with Josh and the team, plus weekly episodes of the Ozpod Rousey's Wrexham Roundup and Racecourse Ramble with Matt. So to get the full landscape of Wrexham news and views, make sure that you subscribe to all three of these podcasts, Local Pundit, Rousey's Wrexham Roundup and Racecourse Ramble, as they are well worth a listen.
I thought you'd been doing community service.
I'm sure you gents will be tuning in.
Yeah, no, I've been listening to him today, hence my today's username.
Because Shadow.
I heard you. Yeah, I heard you.
Yeah. Brotherly love. Well, It's broken today that Welcome to Wrexham Season 4 has been announced to launch on May the 15th on Disney Plus in the UK and Hulu a day later. It will cover this season's League One fun and will accumulate with what's going on over the next few weeks towards the end of the season. Jamie, been waiting for this for quite a while, expecting another rip-roaring story and moments of either sheer joy or terrible pain?
Well, yeah, it's a movie we don't know the ending to yet, isn't it? So it could be another excuse me, it could be another epic ending, it could be another cliffhanger. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because I suppose, I mean, you guys all know better than me, because this is your bag, isn't it? Sort of acting and all that shiz. It'll be interesting to see what they do with it, because they've got to try and keep it fresh and try and keep it engaging for the audience. It can't just be the same regurgitation every season. Even though what's going on in the club is changing. But no, it's always, I've enjoyed every season so far. Even we've talked about it before, even as Wrexham fans, a lot of what you're seeing. It's the whole behind the scenes stuff and all the insight is gold, isn't it? So can't wait. That graphic as well that they've put out for it is brilliant. Although I did have a big chuckle to myself today, because have you seen Birmingham City have announced that they're doing a similar docu-series that's going to be on Amazon Prime. So all the shit they gave us about Disney money and put that in your documentary, and they're doing exactly the same thing. So hypocrites.
Daz, 3 seasons in the bag for Welcome to Wrexham. We know that, obviously the James family, I'm sure, will be tuning in as avid watchers of the documentary, if not necessarily following the team. How do you think they will kind of keep it fresh for that 4th season running?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the story keeps on telling. Obviously the promotion, the three-peat if it can happen, and all of these things that it's all feeding into this incredible story. It's easier to make this documentary about the team when it is so successful. I mean, I wonder how long it can be sustained for. Obviously, if Wrexham are successful to get promotion, then it's another level of tournament to come. So I just think the journey of the team is one part of it, but we've always commented, haven't we, on the fact that it's more than just a football documentary, and it's like a community documentary, and I'm sure that there are plenty of tales to tell about the people who have invested time, energy, and effort into keeping that club afloat, the regular fans, people who have been brought sort of industry, and it'd be interesting to see who else they bring in who have been inspired by this story, that have moved to the area or bringing their business to Wrexham. So I think there's plenty to share. It's just whether or not that will satisfy you, the football fan. That it's because it's that balance, isn't it, about storytelling of the community and the storytelling of the football campaigns.
Although not officially announced by the club, it's looking highly likely that Wrexham's pre-season tour this summer will be going to Australia, possibly playing Melbourne Victory in a friendly. I was having a chat with Rousey on Rousey's Wrexham Roundup about it, and he seemed really positive about it, although not so much on Melbourne, as he doesn't seem to be a fan, and that's putting it lightly, the stuff he spoke about off camera. Daz, Wrexham have tried to conquer the US. Now they're trying down under. Good news for the club, if true?
Well, I mean, you've got this international following, haven't you? And all, if you only have to use the model that the big teams like Liverpool, Man U, Man City, all of them, when they do their campaigns, there's always an American tour. Then there's like one of the Far East, and Australia's on that circuit as well. So there's a huge football following. There will be a crowd. There'll be an audience that want to see it. So whether or not it helps to justify the documentary, justify this global appeal. But in terms of whether or not it's wise in terms of preparation, we've seen positives and negatives about overseas trips in recent years, whether it's overzealous celebrating or pitching, especially the women's team at a level that's perhaps a bit too high. So, is it announced men and women for the Oz tour?
Only the men, apparently. The women have not been mentioned as yet, obviously, because there's something else, obviously, that's broken, which we'll talk about a bit later. But no, only the men so far have been mentioned.
Okay.
A really good article on the BBC Sports website of this week by Chris Watham, which talks about the current situation around Paul Mullin not being around the playing side following his primary inclusion in last week's and in the last few seasons. Everyone in the Wrexham world has been discussing and speculating on why he's not being included and where his future lies for him. And it talks about it in this article in a really fair and balanced way. Jamie, I want to try and avoid adding to the noise around Paul right now, as it's quite deafening at times, and we'll discuss all aspects of this in our post-season review. But do you think Paul will have a contribution to make in the last few games of this season, potentially the playoffs as well, if necessary, if we have to go there?
Never say never, I guess. I think obviously we saw Jay Rodriguez going off last Saturday against Burton with what looked like an injury. I've not heard anything come out of the club to suggest how bad or not that may be. But I guess if there is a potential injury there to him, then that possibly opens up a route back to the first team squad for Paul Mullin. I wouldn't necessarily expect him to be in the starting lineup if Rodriguez is out injured, but potentially a route back to the first team squad. There was a reserve game this week, wasn't there, which he wasn't involved in, so I think that kind of adds a little bit of fuel to that. Based on what we've seen for the last, 12 games or however many games been since the January transfer window, subject to people getting injured, people getting injured or suspensions, you would say probably not, because of, I can't see anything's going to change that would suggest he comes back into the fold, but other than an injury or a suspension. But like you say, we spoke about it already, and we'll talk about it at the end of the season. I'd love nothing more than to see him back on the pitch banging goals in again for Wrexham, but at the minute it's just not something that's in Parky's thought, is it? So we've just got to get on with it.
Now's the time you've all been waiting for, as we're going to draw the winner of our 100th episode giveaway. We asked you to like and comment on our 100th YouTube episode, and the winner will receive not only a replica 1992-93 Wrexham away shirt, but also a match-worn signed shirt by Wrexham Women's player Phoebe Davis. Gents, two great prizes. Daz, would you like to win those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm always a fan of the match-worn prizes. I think it's just, as much as replicas are a good thing for the fan and the supporter and stuff, it's something really special and a special way of connecting with the team, isn't it? With a match-worn shirt. So yeah, great prize.
Jamie, good prizes for you?
Yeah, great prizes. Wheel.
Well, what we're talking about.
Yeah, so sorry for the audio listeners. I am currently looking at my first Wheel of Fortune, which has got all the people's names on that he's going to spin now, and hopefully, if it's not a paid subscription version where you only get a winner if you pay for it.
Well, all the names have been placed onto the Wheel of Fortune, and so, without further ado, good luck everybody. 3, 2, 1, here we go! Round and round and round she goes. Where she stops, nobody knows. Scream if you want to go faster. It's slowing down, it's slowing down, it's slowing down. Who's going to get it? 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 And the winner is David Wood for 118. Congratulations. Congratulations to you on winning. David Wood for 118. Please contact us via personal message or email, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. And we'll get these in the post to you ASAP. Gents, would you like to congratulate David Wood for 118?
Absolutely. Congratulations, David. You'll love them.
Yes. Congratulations, David, on your prizes.
As I said, contact us and we'll get them into the post to you as soon as we can.
Come and see the rest with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We know just how they feel when they beat me by McNeil. We're off to the second division.
Cymru Women were back in action at the Cardiff City Stadium as they hosted Denmark Women in Game 3 of this year's Nations League. Rhiannon Wilkinson named 5 changes from the 1-1 draw versus Sweden last month. Olivia Clark in goal, Kerry Holland, Rhiannon Roberts for Kaylee Barton, Josie Green, Gemma Evans, Lily Woodham for Charlie Escor, Hannah Kane for Lois Joel, Hayley Ladd and Harrod James Turner, Rachel Rowe for Ella Powell and Fionn Morgan for Carrie Jones. A tough game where Cymru competed with a high-ranking side in the world. Denmark scored within 7 minutes in a very dominant first 30 minutes until a tight cut-back goal by Kerry Holland levelled the score on 34 minutes. Second half and the two sides were trading blows, and on 72 minutes, Hannah Kane very nearly took the lead with a one-on-one with the keeper. However, then Denmark went straight down the other end and took the lead. Cymru tried to get back in the game, but Denmark were too strong, and the game ended in a 2-1 loss, with the added pain of a nasty injury to Kerry Holland, meaning she had to be stretchered off. Daz, spirited performance from Cymru, who very nearly got something from this tie. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, I think that's a really good description in terms of spirited. I think they we know this team is a lot of the teams we're going to be facing now, whether it's in the Nations League or in the Euros in the summer. They are all very well organized, well experienced, and higher ranked teams than us, and so. Pitching ourselves against some of these quality sides now is a real test, a real sort of opportunity for us to learn a lot about not just the quality of the players we've got, who seem to be getting better and better. I must admit, there's some real quality coming through, especially through some of the youth as well. But also the tactics, the rotation. I think it's been really exciting. Wilco's policy on there's no point having a player in the squad unless you're prepared to play them. And I think that's a really, really healthy sort of attitude. So it gives everybody in the squad hope and optimism about being able to be part of a game, being part of the team, not just just the training camp. And I think she's rewarded. So there was 5 changes before we started from the previous game, which is really good. And and going into that game with high hopes, because we had such a good result against Sweden in the Cardiff City Stadium last time around. So we know what this team can do. There's a lot of potential. However, when you face
There wasn't a feeling, was there, of that we've had in the previous one where you think, well, we're going to get beaten, whatever.
No, I mean,
we just got to try and reduce the deficit of how much we're being beaten. You actually
yeah.
felt that we could compete.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think the last time we played them, there was something like 5-1 or something was the result or something, at home. So, we're leagues, we're eons apart from this old team that was struggling against. We're now genuinely competitive. Yes, there was a period of dominance for the first half hour where Denmark were just, very, very strong, really, really strong. And once they took that early lead after 7 minutes, which was deserved. It was balance of play, and it was a really good move down the flank. As much as the right back was showing them down the wing, there was just, I don't know, just a little bit of sloppiness in midfield where they weren't paying attention, weren't picking up the additional runners running into the 10 sort of channel, and managed to flick it on, and it was a brilliant finish by the striker. Brun, I think her name is, and it was a really well placed slotted goal right into that bottom right hand goal to the left of the goalkeeper. So fair play to them. But I think we allowed that to happen. I think there was an opportunity out of all the periods of possession and dominance. Denmark had lots more chances that I thought should have been. Should have gone in. They were wide of the post so many times, hit the crossbar, some really good saves. So there was a period where I thought, ooh, this is going to be awkward. But actually, fair play. After about half an hour, or just under half an hour, they began to settle in. Their possession got stronger because Denmark are a very technical team, really, really strong. But they got in. They absolutely did. Got stuck in, if we want to say. There was a good breakdown of their possession. I think the goal was a wake up call, maybe. They got really, really stuck in, and began to sort of get a little bit of a foot in the game, and deservedly. Then I thought, not necessarily that we absolutely deserved to go, but I think we improved so much by this point. I think the goal was just deserved, and it was a fascinating sort of goal to score as well, because Kerry Holland, who's been an amazing contributor for the Welsh team down the right hand side, putting in crosses, giving us lots of options, but we're not making the most of them at the moment. Fine, whatever. It was quite interesting that it came from a corner on the left-hand side, which meant because Kerry Holland had crossed over because she's the right footer, she was in a position where she wouldn't normally be. And so when the ball came away from the corner and it came out, and then there was this like next phase of play, this drifted cross came in, and everybody misjudged it. It went all the way through, and Kerry Holland was still there, and it was brilliant because she was able to bring it back on the inside and thumped it. I mean, it was a great strike. Yes, it took a deflection off a defender on the way past the keeper, but I'd have challenged anybody to stop that at that range, because it was such a good, strong thumping shot. So, and it lifted the team then. I mean, I originally I thought I was going to look at the stats, and I was going to look and see that Denmark had the lion's share of the game, but actually, possession wise, it was only marginally over, as you can see there. The number of shots, yes, more than half the game. I don't think. I thought it was going to be a little bit more, one-sided than that. So I think it did show how well Cymru had done to sort of get back into this game after half an hour of dominance by Denmark. So that was good. I thought going into half time, I thought optimistic. I thought everybody in the team should be really, really pleased with that result. And then to do so well in the second half, where again really battled, long periods of possession by Cymru then as well. I really liked the way they were able to play it through the back, play it through the midfield. Yes, push through, trying to have a few attempts at goal. Not as many as we'd like. The finishing wasn't there, but they're a very good, strong defensive unit. But there was this one pass that came from the Welsh midfield and right over the top of that defensive line, and Hannah Kane ran onto it. And what a ball! I thought that was
Fantastic.
just the perfect ball for
Mm.
Hannah Kane to run on, and it was 1-on-1 with the keeper. And now it's her job. It's what she does, and I know she can do better than that, and she'll know that. And
Yeah.
so it was really hard to watch her hit the goalkeeper. Good save. I mean, goalkeeper stayed
Yeah, yeah.
big, did all the things a goalkeeper's supposed to do, but saved it. But it was the swiftness of the counter attack. Then the ball went back up the other end. Midfielder, the Danish midfielder. You could see she was driving through across the halfway line. There was a Welsh shirt pulling on her as well, and the referee. I mean, in hindsight now, we'd have liked them to have given away the free kick, even a yellow card for that. But as she was being pulled back, the through ball was exquisite. Perfect weight for the striker Vansgaard. I think she was the sub that came on,
Yeah, yeah.
and and coolly slotted in the way that Hannah Kane didn't. And that's
Mm.
hard. That's hard. And I know that's going to sit with Hannah Kane for a while now about how what could have been, what could have, should have, and all of that. Because of course, if Cymru had gone 2-1 up themselves, I don't know if they'd have changed their tactics and defended and sort of, because I think we were playing the Wilkinson way, which is let's be aggressive, let's go
Mm.
toe to toe, let's
Mm.
believe that we're as good as any opponent. And yes, on the day, if they're better than us, congratulations, Denmark, you were better than us. But they didn't have to knock on the door, because we were just defensive. Actually, she's got them playing with confidence, got them playing with fluidity, and actually, after we started settling into the game, it was a joy to watch. It was a really entertaining game, and there was some end to end. Yes, we rode our luck again. As I say, there was the fair number of chances, but to have conceded like that, and then with say quarter of an hour to go, then it kind of broke. It wasn't heartbreaking, but it was frustrating and it was annoying. And
Yeah.
you could see a few heads going, "Oh, we slipped there."
Mm.
And Denmark were disciplined, but right to the end though, fair play. Cymru gave it their best shot, and then. As you said in the intro, the only thing that marred this game really, beyond that, then of course, is what appears to be quite a horrible injury to Kerry Holland, who got stretchered off, and didn't look good. Didn't look good at all. I mean,
No.
a warrior like her to be stretchered off is serious. So obviously, we wish her all the best. She didn't appear obviously later in the campaign. We'll talk about that later. But as being one of our best players consistently, who can
Mm.
play literally. I bet you if you gave her gloves, she could do it. She's the best player on the pitch, can play any position, and we are going to miss her. And I just hope it's not that serious that she misses the summer, because that would be a travesty for us.
Well, Daz is reading my script, Jamie. I mean, that the injury to Kerry Holland was serious. I mean, thankfully, by the sounds of it, what's coming from the FAW is that she's still being assessed and it's not as bad as was first thought. However, they don't know exactly how long she's going to be out. But as Daz said, we did see her a bit later in the week. I mean, as Daz said as well, she can play in multiple positions. I mean, she was playing right back on that game, but she has played, across the defence and in midfield. Some pundits actually say that she's better up front and she should be more up front and we should be putting somebody else in that back. If Kerry Holland is missing for the Euros, Jamie, how big a thing is that going to be with regards to Cymru's chances in that competition?
I don't think, in the most respectful way possible, I don't think losing one player will change what we do in the tournament. However, it would be a huge loss. You just said there, I think one of the key things is it's like ultimate utility player, isn't it? And they're worth their weight in gold in any team at any level. There are very few and far between genuine utility players that can play comfortably in multiple positions, and she's definitely one. So it would be a huge loss, but the team is not about one person, is it? It's Ryan Wilkinson's got on playing in a distinctive way and in a good way. And I think it will be difficult to have to deal with the loss, but I'm sure they will be able to cope. Well, ultimately they'd have to, wouldn't they? Because you can't dwell on the loss of one player in a team sport. So yeah, it would be a huge blow, and more than anything for her, to miss out. The last thing you'd want is for someone who's been a pivotal part of the team for a while to have to miss out on such a monumental tournament. That first and foremost you'd feel for her more than anything else. So let's hope the news that comes out is good. It's soon, hopefully.
A beautiful spring day greeted Burton Albion as visitors to the Stoke Kairas to take on Wrexham in League One action. Phil Parkinson named an unchanged side for the 5th game in a row. Okonkwo in goal, Cleworth, O'Connell and Brunt at the back, Longman and McLean on the wings, James, Dobson and Rathbone in midfield, Smith and Rodriguez up front. An edgy, nervy game for 70 minutes, even though Burton had a player sent off 10 minutes in for a tackle on Dobson. Add an early first half exit by Rodriguez to be praised by Fletcher, and the bus was well and truly parked. Parkey made changes at half-time, unusually, bringing on Lee for Dobson and Barnett for McLean, moving Longman over to the left wing. Eventually, Wrexham made the breakthrough, being awarded a penalty when Smith was judged to be fouled by the Burton keeper, converted by Fletcher. Smith himself then scored a 1-1 with the keeper before substitute Marriott did the same for a 3-0 win. Wrexham finished the week still second in the table, 3 points now ahead of Wycombe after they had their win on Tuesday versus Huddersfield. Jamie, let's say first a big congrats to Birmingham City, having clinched promotion on Tuesday back to the Championship for the first time of asking. Well done to them. They will now get their league title done at Easter, possibly, depending on results. You were on pins sitting next to me on Saturday. I've never seen you so animated. What did you make of this game?
I don't know what you mean. I was chill, man. I was the definition of chill. Not. Yeah, let's do the honourable thing and say congratulations to Birmingham. I've not got this hatred towards them. I think it's quite laughable, a lot of the grief that's been levelled at us with what we've done over the last few years as a football club. They're not too dissimilar, to be honest with you. But look, they've done what they were expected to do, which is get promotion. And I'm sure they'll go on and win the title. So yeah, congratulations to them. But yeah, as for Saturday, do you want to set your little timer off before I start?
Yeah,
God forbid.
I've started it already, so you're already
God forbid that I go over 10 minutes, and waffle on as you and Matt so gracefully discussed.
Yeah. Get on with it then. You're wasting time already.
No, it's easy. It's easy. Nothing happened for 70 minutes. We got a penalty. We scored 3 goals. We won.
Excellent. There's more than that, and you know it, Jim.
No. Yes, I know it. Like you say, I think the lineup first and foremost, unsurprising again that it was unchanged. I won't lie and say I wasn't a little bit disappointed. I was hoping to see, certainly in the midfield, I didn't think we needed to show a team in the bottom 4 at home in a what was a crucial game for us. I didn't think we needed to show them as much respect and have the 2 holding midfielders in Dobson and James. But likewise, I wasn't surprised to see an unchanged lineup. I think the most pleasing thing about the lineup was the fact that Ryan Longman stayed in the team, because I've been really impressed with him since he's joined us. And whilst he's not necessarily dominated a game from start to finish, he has moments in games, and you can see that quality he possesses. So yeah, pleased to see him. Pleased to see him in the starting lineup. Obviously, the game gets going. Not a great deal happens in that first 10 minutes, but then obviously the pivotal moment of the game comes on about 10 minutes, which was the red card. Look, I've seen on the day, both in the ground, the Burton fans for the rest of the game were giving the referee all sorts of dogs for it being a poor decision. After the game, the manager and then all the fans online arguing the toss about it being not being a red card. It was a red card all day long. You can
well, let's ask our PGMOL representative. Daz, red card?
I'm trying to remember. I did watch it.
Yeah, just like the PGMOL, can't decide.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. I knew this was. I really should have paid more attention. I think
What's your
I watched
VAR bloke
it.
next to you eating pizza say? He'll tell you.
Yeah. No. If I recall, the fact is, I didn't stop for 1 second to think that's unfair. It just washed over me. So by default,
Yeah.
I went with the decision. So it felt the right decision.
I mean, in the ground on the day in real time, we all sort of said, oh, jumped up as if it had been a bad tackle because you could sense it was a bad tackle. And I said to you straight away, didn't I? I think he's going to send him off here because you could see what the referee was doing. He was giving himself thinking time, I think, and communicating with his linesman or fourth official over his earpiece. But the second that he didn't pull that yellow card out straight away, I feared he was going to go for the red. And afterwards, when I've watched it back, 100% it was the right decision. It was high, it was out of control, it was studs up. He got nowhere near the ball. It's a red card all day long, and you can't argue. You can't argue it. If it was us that had done it, I'd be saying the exact same thing. But that red card did change the game. It absolutely changed the game. And my first thought when the red card happened, and after 10 minutes, is 4-0's on here. But to be honest with you, and you've got to be pretty blunt about it. Between 10 minutes and 70 minutes, not a great deal happened. I think you have to give a little bit of credit to Burton. In the situation they were in, they deployed every dark art in the book for wasting time. Changing the throw-in and free kick takers at the last minute. Every tackle that they got against them, they would stay down for the longest possible time before their physio had to come on, so that they'd have to go off. And as much as in the ground, I'm ready to pull my hair out because I'm so frustrated, as were 12,500 other Wrexham fans. We'd have done the same thing. They managed the game, considering the situation they were in. They managed the game really well, but it was bloody frustrating to watch, and we had no answer to it. We couldn't break it down. In that first half, in particular, I think we had 12 shots on 12 shots, but only 2 on target, and they weren't particularly memorable. I think the only other thing that's worth calling out from that first half was Arthur making what was a really good save, although it wasn't a shot that he stopped. It was a goal score. It would have been a goal scoring opportunity, but he, off his line, quick as a flash. And considering the injury he's had to his wrist this season, brave to dive at that lad's feet and gather that ball. But again, as we've spoken about for the last few weeks, there's been moments in games recently where he's made big saves, and that was another one. So, but yeah, the rest of the first half really just came and went without anything really significant. You mentioned it in your intro there. Many have been critical of Parky's reluctance to make substitutions before 60, 65 minutes, myself included. There've been many a times on pods this.
You said to me at half time, he has got to make a change here. This is at his feet. And I was like, oh, no, he won't. He'll just do his thing. He obviously listened to you, Jim.
I highly doubt it. And if he is listening to me, then we're in the shit. Because don't listen to me. But no, it was ultimately, you could see it. I mean, like I said at the start of the game, I personally thought we were showing them too much respect by playing the 2 defensive midfielders from the start. Given what had happened, obviously George Dobson had the knock from the red card incident. You and I saw him when he came to the sideline. He had blood gushing down his leg, and I think it's transpired he's had to have some stitches. So the gash was obviously significant enough that it drew blood. So that decision was made a little bit easier for him. But absolutely bringing Elliot Lee into the mix and taking one of the defensive midfielders off was absolutely the right thing to do, and bringing Barney on and taking McLean off as well. McLean didn't really influence the game. And I think Barney and Longman as the wide men in recent games have looked really threatening. And against a 10-man team who had nothing going forward, really, it was absolutely the right thing to do. So, yeah, really encouraging that he did that at half-time. But, again, I think even despite those changes, the frustration carried on in that second half. There wasn't a huge mass improvement. It was a slight improvement, but nothing significant. It's not like we were peppering their goal from the kickoff. And in all honesty, as we were creeping past 70 minutes, I'm starting to think, is it going to be one of those days? Are they going to be able to hold off? But I said to you, one goal completely changes this. And 71 minutes, we get the goal. Now, as much as I was saying before about that red card was a stonewall red card, I'll be as equally as honest with this. I don't think it was a penalty.
Over to our PGMOL expert, Daz. Was it a penalty?
No.
There you go.
No.
Thank you.
No, I don't think so. I think it's a coming together. What's the goalkeeper supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, in the ground, obviously, when that impact happens, again in real time, we're all penalty because you think the keeper's taking him out, and whether that's influenced the referee or not, I don't know. It was given when I watched it back. I don't think the keeper does himself any favours because if you watch it, he's almost trotting to the ball. He's not sprinting to it. He's just sort of trotting. Whether he thinks he's going to get there comfortably or not, I don't know. But either way, Sam Smith does get there first, but he knocks the ball away, and the keeper they're just coming together. It's absolutely not a penalty, but look, we'll take it.
That keeper's got form. This is the guy who took out Paul Mullin the season before last, so
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, he didn't complain too much either. The goalkeeper, I mean, he had a little whinge, but he didn't complain too much. But look, like I say, I'm being open and transparent and honest. It wasn't a penalty, but I'll gratefully take it. And fair play. We did the old switcheroo thing, which seems to be a tactic that we've used recently. Eventually, it's Stephen Fletcher that puts the ball on the floor, and what a brilliant penalty. It was never going anywhere other than the top corner, and our top scorer, just let that sink in for a minute. Our top scorer getting another goal. This is someone who has had minimal game time yet as our top scorer. Says it all, doesn't it? But as soon as that goal went in, it completely changed because the time wasting stopped, the dark arts stopped, and they had to try and come out a little bit. And as soon as that happened, it was just open it up. It was only a couple of minutes later that we get the second goal. Pretty straightforward. It was a really good pass by Ryan Longman. Great time run from Sam Smith, and as he showed us already in a Wrexham shirt, he has got brilliant composure in those situations, and slotted it home perfectly. And we get the second goal. Burton completely broken by this point. And to be fair, we created several chances then between then and the end of the game. Probably the most noticeable one was Stephen Fletcher's 40-yard effort, which I think if that had gone in, the roof would have come off the place.
Oh yeah.
But he's definitely got one of them in him because he's tried that before, hasn't he? But it wasn't a million miles away. We do eventually get the third. It was obviously quite close to the end. Jack Marriott's come on as a sub. And again, another very Route 1 punt forward by Ryan Barnett. The defender makes an absolute hash of it, to be fair. And then Marriott gets the ball at his feet. And to be fair, when he came on, as he does, he harries, he presses, he runs around. He's like he's like a wasp running around. Great that he got the opportunity to get the goal. And he puts it away. And 3-0, 87 minutes, 3-0. And I am, if you remember, I was saying, we want four, because I genuinely thought it was on.
And Daz was cursing Jack Marriott, going, why wasn't it two? Why wasn't it two?
But in all seriousness, I was hoping, I was hoping we would continue to press and try and get another one, because obviously one more goal would have wiped out the goal difference. Although the 3-0 win, given what had happened to Wycombe in the other game, because obviously the news of that is that they were 1-0 down to Reading and circulated. Great atmosphere in the ground because of, not only because of what was going on the pitch, but because of that news with Wycombe and Reading. Brilliant atmosphere. Although 3-0, you would look at 3-0 and think, oh, it's it been an easy win, but it wasn't quite an easy win. But ultimately, we got the job done. I think player-wise, I think the couple of players that I made a note of. One was Anthony Ford. I know he's a Burton player, but it was really, really nice that he got the opportunity to come on the pitch and get a great reception from the Wrexham fans. And then after the game, obviously went around the pitch and got great applause. He's very much one of those that should go down in the record books as a contributor to getting us to where we are. So it was really nice that he got that moment. But from a Wrexham perspective, I don't think there were any majorly standout players. Other than probably Ollie Rathbone. I thought he had another brilliant game. Again, not necessarily anything spectacular, but a very efficient, tenacious performance like we used to seeing from him. You know, the guy is just an absolute terrier, and just doesn't stop from minute one till the end. But look, like we said a couple of weeks ago, it doesn't matter whether it was a 1-0 squeaky bum last minute winner. It was just about getting the win, particularly with Wickham dropping points. And yeah, dare to dream.
Well, Daz, 5 games to go. Wrexham chalks up that other win, but possible injuries to Rodriguez and Dobson. If these players have to miss games, will this be a blow to Wrexham's automatic promotion chances, do you think?
Well, I mean, it's a blow if if you don't use your squad rotation as well as Parky does. Oh, hang on, does he?
No.
Yeah.
No. No.
I mean, that's the thing. That's losing in any player to injury is if you're part of a team that doesn't rotate as often as others do, then when you lose key players, it's important. And as much as we haven't seen much from Rodriguez, he's been scoring those penalties. He gained the penalty that I saw. He has been influential. Has he been as influential as people want him to be? Then perhaps not. So Parky's gonna have to think differently. Gonna have to sort of review his squad a bit more. But that's good. You have got depth. You have boosted. You have continued to boost in the January as well. So that I think that just smacks of an opportunity now of just making the most of the squad you've got, because there is strength and depth. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. But yes, it's tight at the top. Obviously the game in hand for Wickham, that was always going to be the clinch. A sort of a key point, isn't it? But
And
now
Huddersfield were crap on
They
Tuesday.
were shit.
They were rubbish. Rubbish, Huddersfield. Absolutely rubbish.
So now now it's clear. Now it's clear. I think that's the joy of finally getting that out of the system. So yeah, no, it's going to be, what was it? Do you say 5 games to go? I
5
mean,
games to go. Yeah.
it's only the it's only the 1 game lead though. It's at any point. And Jamie, you said last week, there's going to be some upsets. There are going to be some points drop. Wickham done it already. Do we see Wrexham doing it? Probably. It's just whether or not Wickham can they see them all through to the end of the season. I don't think they can. So I think you've got a bit of grace there as well. So
Heard it here first, guys. Heard it here first. Central Park, the home of Denby Town FC, was the setting as Wrexham Women welcomed champions Cardiff City Women in the penultimate Adran Premier League game of the season. Steve Dale made 4 changes from the 3-1 defeat by Britton Ferry. Lizzie Craven in goal, Phoebe Davis, Karen Allen for Katie Sharp, Rebecca Pritchard for Erin Lovett, Nat Clark, Lily Jones, Mary Gibbard for Brooke Cairns, Cara Jones, Rosie Hughes for Amber Lightfoot, Ava Suckley and Abby Idenden. In what can only be described as a landmark performance for Wrexham Women, even though Wrexham went down to a goal after 8 minutes, they took the game to Cardiff, dominating many parts. With command of the midfield, Rosie Hughes scored on 20 minutes, and then Abby Idenden scored a hat-trick that can only be described as sublime, scoring on the 40th, 54th and 61st minute. Even though Cardiff got a second goal on 51 minutes, Wrexham never really looked in danger in the second half and came away with a 4-2 win. I'll say that again, beating the champions 4-2. Wrexham are still in third in the league with 32 points, 2 points ahead of TNS in fourth. Daz, we had no faith, and again Wrexham showed us that we know absolutely bugger all. What did you make of this game? Because I was absolutely blown away.
I mean, it was not the result any of us was expecting. Otherwise, we would have changed our predictions, clearly. So I'm not going to pretend that we could see this coming. Now, I am going to say we have praised the team for their upturn in this half of the season. We have praised the team for some much better defensive work. The midfield being really aggressive and making those 50-50s matter, and we've absolutely without hesitation been praising the finishing of Abidin particularly, or Ava Suckley and others, that and Cara Jones and all the others sort of chipping in as well. Now, so that aside, we were praising them. We knew that there was this quality in the side. What we didn't expect was them to be able to sustain that against a buoyant, you would have thought, motivated Cardiff City, having won the league, I'm curious as to whether or not celebrations have set in a bit early. I'm not going to say they weren't their usual self. I still think Cardiff turned up, but there was something. It certainly wasn't still not the Cardiff of last year. I'm gonna still say it's not to belittle this win, and it's not to belittle anybody who's beaten Cardiff this year. But there have been closer games this year than there were last year across the board. But they have still managed to win the league with games to spare. So, absolutely credit to Cardiff where that's deserved. But they are not the all-conquering team of last year. But what we saw at the weekend was a Cardiff side that were competitive. Wrexham were competitive, and okay, Cardiff went ahead first. You kind of got into your head at that point. Is this going to be it? The usual affair. Never going to get this result against Cardiff when they've also got their tails up because they're the champions. But you do have to credit the tenacity that Wrexham showed. I mean, their first goal was that, Rosie Hughes is, poaching, responding quickest, goalkeeper and defender getting in each other's way. It was, a series of sort of, errors. But that wasn't the first attempt. Rosie Hughes had a few early shots on goal. Began to look a bit more the Rosie Hughes of because as much as we've been praising the Wrexham forward line, I don't think I've been saying Rosie Hughes' name that often. She's been coming on as a sub and being ineffectual. Yes, she may have scored a couple of weeks back, but not being the potent threat that we know her to be. This was somebody who was there really wanting to make a difference, having an impact on the game, was a thorn in their side, and you couldn't afford any slip ups. And on this occasion, defender and goalkeeper getting in each other's way. First one to react, Rosie Hughes. So, and the celebration as well, it mattered to her. It was such a thing of joy to watch somebody when they really wanted to get this goal against Cardiff. It really mattered. So that was brilliant. And it was an end-to-end tussle. It was aggressive. It was entertaining. And I think that Cardiff knew they were in a game. I think Wrexham knew this could be a game that they could, get something from, and it made for a really entertaining battle. But the goal for me, which, I mean, it's simply route one. Let's be honest. Goalkeeper, hoof sit down the middle, and for whatever reason, everybody misjudges the flight of the ball. I'm not sure what's gone on there, but. Izzardin is timed sort of run onto the ball, sort of has managed to sort of break the offside trap. Everybody's misjudged the ball, and with the deftest of touches, has lobbed the goalkeeper, and the perfect weight, and it just epitomized that confidence we're talking about, that the team are showing, led by her. I mean, she's been an absolute game changer for the team all season long. So quality, absolute quality finish, and an assist for Craven. So it's you've got to love it.
Hell of a kick that was.
It was hell of a kick.
We in all seriousness, we talked about like goalkeepers and obviously the kind of physicality challenges that the women have. But I tell you what a bloody kick that was, because it's full size pitch, and it was you couldn't have put much more behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. Then second half, Cardiff obviously get themselves back into it, and that was a bit scrappy. It was a little bit of a sort of a speculative shot. I don't blame the goalkeeper in the sense that you couldn't see the ball through the bodies. It comes round some defenders, and literally at the last seconds, it's a really well placed finish, and so you can understand why she couldn't see it. But then I think Wrexham began to really sort of get knuckled into this. Now I think they first of all they felt that was unfair or undeserved equaliser, and you just found there was a little bit more grit, a little bit more sort of desire, and then Wrexham's third goal. again, I mean, as much as that lob was a piece of class act, the ball is fizzed into Idden at such speed, at a height. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, shoulder height, waist height, but it's coming, and it has to get the leg and drops it dead. Absolutely drops it dead at her feet and thumps through it, and it's just flying off into the top, into the left hand side, and it's just a brilliant sweeping action of. The midfield breaking down the passage of play. I think it was Suckley, I can't remember, but just fizzes it out because she can see the run, and mid-run, she's just drops the ball dead in front of her, plows straight through it. It's a wonderful finish, and it just shows the other, the range of talent and skill that she has. And then to finish a hat trick. I mean, if anybody's deserving of a hat trick this season, it's got to be Abby. So and there were other chances leading up to it. There were plenty of opportunities to score, but the final one, it's I don't think there's a player in the team that's more deserving of a hat trick in that way. And so for her to be able to confidently finish that, it just shows her personal extreme confidence, but I think the team as a whole, and it just epitomized that in that result. And yeah, it was proper end to end all the way through to the end. I don't think Cardiff gave up. But I just felt that the momentum was with Wrexham. They had the confidence. I just think it's what the teams deserved, because they've been continuing to improve all season long, and what a great result now, and it sets it up really nicely. I'm sorry, I'm probably going to spoil your script. Shall I? No. Is that it's probably setting us up nicely now for a cup final that I have no idea how to call that one now. When that prediction comes through, I genuinely don't know how to predict it, because this is entertaining stuff. Two teams in, one winning the league, one flying high. What a cup final!
What kind of team did Cardiff put out? Because we talked last week, didn't we, about whether they would rest players. Oh, am I stealing your script?
You are now definitely seen in my script, yeah, Jamie, so shut up. And I believe, Daz, you didn't put it, but that last goal from Abby Idden officially, I think, is called a thunder bastard. I believe that's the term for it.
The second goal was the best. The second goal was the best.
But that last one, 25 years, absolute smasher was incredible.
Oh yeah, I mean it's from range. I mean, I think it's hard to tell the goalkeeper whether or not they're in no man's land. They don't even make an attempt to save it. I can't work out the angles from the footage. I couldn't work out where they were positioning themselves. Were they completely in the wrong place? But the pace, the strike, there's just completely off a line. But it's not a lob. It's just a brilliantly driven shot. But for me, it's a good goal. But it's not a par on technique for me, in the skill wise of the first two of her. I mean, that is just a really good shot. What I liked about the other two was deftness of touch. But for me, that middle one, the second of the three, for me, was the control and movement. It was just fluid, absolutely fluid, and nobody was stopping that.
No. Jamie, Cardiff did make 5 changes from the TS game the week before, including the goalkeeper. Do you think this contributed to the defeat? See, you are reading my script.
I'm not reading nothing of yours. Well, this is why I asked the question. I watched the highlights of this game. I wasn't able to watch the game live. I watched the highlights of it, and blew me away, to be fair, how good Wrexham were. That's why I asked the question about the changes. I know we talked about it last week when we were doing the predictions for what we thought Cardiff might do for this. If they've made 5 changes, that is quite significant, because you'd assume that's 5 key players. So, like Daz was saying there, the fact we've beaten Cardiff twice now in the matter of what, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, or whatever it is, recently, that cup final is going to be a tough one to call. That is, because obviously if Cardiff have made changes for this last game, you would assume they've done that on the basis of resting / keeping their best or better players fresh. So I think you probably do have to sort of take that into account. However, as we well know on this podcast, you can only beat what's in front of you.
Hey!
So, regardless of what team they put out, the way Wrexham performed and beat them, I think, and in the nicest possible way, I think 4-2 flattered them a little bit from what I saw and read. Although I'm not buying into this Abby Iddon loving, I'll be honest, because for two reasons. One, I'm really disappointed that she didn't put the window through on the team bus in the first half, because that was that was should have, if that had put the window through, that would have been icing on the cake. And secondly, the fact she scored a hat-trick in this game means you have to say her name lots, which means you're in practice at it, which means I don't get to laugh at you for mispronouncing it every week. So yeah, I'm not feeling it. So yeah, Abby, please stop scoring goals. So this moron has to keep mispronouncing your name.
I mean, Daz, Abby Iddenden, haha, now is top scorer in the Gino Adran. Second is Ava Suckley. I mean, what does that say about a team that started phase one and played most of phase one so badly that they were struggling to get out of the bottom two, now have the top two goal scorers in the league?
Yeah, it might be. I mean, partly. I was trying to recall those two weren't starting all the games at the very beginning when they first came into the club. New season, they weren't being first choice picks. Now, whether that was about bedding them into the existing side, not trying to be too disruptive, you've got that cohesion, but that's maybe not enough time in preseason and training and things like that. I don't know. They seem to be coming on maybe as some substitution appearances, and then I think we realised how good they were, and I do think that they'd found their place in the team. That may have something to have done with it, because I do think there was a little bit of a slow burn, but that was on the quality of those couple of players. The rest of the team, I do think, were below par as well. There was some noticeable performances, and I already said, where's Rosie been all season? It's not been a typical Rosie Hughes season. Now, injuries, that will have a part to play, but it's not all about that. I do think there's something amiss about trying to gel these new players or new systems or whatever it was. And as they got through the season, they got to know each other, but also I think they realized the talent they've got, and they've been playing a team around this talent. And I think that's definitely made them a stronger, more cohesive team out front. But at the back, I do think there was miscommunication, a lot of miscommunication. We talked about that in the early games. There were, shambles. There were clearances that should have been going, nowhere near the goal, and yet it was just a mess. And so there seems to be far more structure, far more cohesion, really impressive defensive displays, which is helping keeping Wrexham in games. Because against Cardiff, you still conceded two. Other teams concede 2, 3 against Cardiff. That's it. You've got the fortune of having some quality up front to make up for that as well.
We're going to score one more than you. Of course we are.
Go for it.
After being at home, Cymru Women flew to Gothenburg to take on Sweden Women in their second Nations League game of the week. Due to injuries, Rhian Wilkinson had to make some changes. The big surprise was the inclusion of Safia Middleton-Patel for her third cap in goal in place of Olivia Clark. Jess Fishlock and Kerry Holland were ruled out with injury. 18-year-old North Walian Maisie Davis came in for Josie Green. Ella Powell came in for Hannah Kane. Elise Hughes came in for Kerry Holland. And Kerry Jones came in for Lily Woodham. Cymru weathered a true storm as wave upon wave of Swedish attacks tried to break down a resolute Cymru defence. Some was luck, but most was an organised and confident approach. Even when Sweden scored on 60 minutes, some Cymru fans feared the worst. But unlike in previous games, Cymru didn't let their heads drop and pushed back, and an incredible build-up play and through pass put to Hannah Kane one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Unlike in the Denmark game, Hannah kept her cool head, rounded the keeper and slotted the ball in the net to make it 1-1. Cymru had to batten down the hatches, but survived to draw, taking 2 draws versus the 6th best team in the world in 2 games. That is so impressive. Cymru are still 4th in League A, Group 4 with 2 points, 4 points behind Denmark and Italy above them. Daz, I'm going to say this, a landmark performance from Cymru Women. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we're going to give all the praise to Denmark for being a really technically strong and gifted team, Sweden are another level up. I mean, genuinely, this is a quality side, lots of talent, play their game in American leagues and on the continent here, as well as in the Women's Super League. So there's a lot of talent, and you sense that all the way through the game. Their ability to pass, control, their touch, there was a lot of quality on display. And yet, once again, we're seeing a Cymru side that are not being faced by that. They're going toe to toe. The goalkeeping change at the beginning was probably the biggest shock of Wilco's management so far. I don't think anybody saw that coming.
I have to be honest. I was like, this is a step too far for me. I know Rhian Wilkinson is all about blending up young players, rotating the squad, but I thought you're playing the sixth best team in the world, and you're putting in a young keeper with only 2 caps. This is her 3rd cap. I thought this was a step too far. How wrong could I have been?
Oh, I mean, that one individual change. I mean, whether or not Olivia Clark or anybody could have performed, as well, who knows? But I suppose if you're under the cosh, the attempts at goal were many. And so, in which case, there was a lot of opportunities for Safi to show her quality. Now, we can argue whether or not that should have been the case. Should there have been better defence? Should there have been more support from midfield, dropping back into the defence and giving the overlap? Because there was so many times there was 3 against 3, 4 against 3, counter attacks, and it was a charmed life. The goal, let's be honest, the Welsh goal was under the cosh, but. You have to credit, Safia being in the right place, regularly positioning herself, knowing where her goal was, knowing where the threats were. And what I particularly liked about her saves. Oh my God, am I actually praising a goalkeeper here?
I'll stop the press. I believe Daz is being nice to a keeper. So clip this up.
Oh, it's funny we were recording this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mentioned something nice about the goalkeeper in the previous roundup as well.
You did.
But
You will.
Yeah, I no. To be honest, it's when it's done right, when it's done well, it's what can you complain about? And that's what I particularly like, was that her positioning was great. But what I particularly like was the saves were pushing the ball away all the time into areas of less danger, and it wasn't simply about stopping the shots, although it is. But the reactions, many a time it was a push away rather than risk catching. It wasn't just simply putting a hand out. It was genuinely. I mean, doesn't seem like the tallest player. Feels like the wrong. If we're going to say athleticism for goalkeeping, you see a lot of the international goalkeepers are much taller, but she can move her feet. She's really quick reactions, and you can see why Manchester United clearly rate her. And so generally, I would say her play was excellent. Yes, the Sweden goal going in, not her fault. There was a whole range of bodies everywhere. It was a great cross. It was a threatening corner. A lot of people heading, and there was no way the goalkeeper was getting anywhere near that. She doesn't have the height advantage to come over the top and punch through and take everybody out with them. So she is vulnerable in that sense. But the Swedish team have height. We have a reasonable amount of height though in the team, and we competed, but it was a great little flick on header. Beat everybody on the sort of 6-yard line, or just inside the box, and it goes into the goal. And you can't falter. But what I liked about Basafia as well was that there was another corner or another free kick from that side where there was a very similar ball coming in, and she did not. She actually went and then caught it, made the clearance. And so you could easily forgive her for being a little bit nervous about that, about having already conceded 1 goal, that the same could happen again. The bravery in that, I thought the decision making was great. And then yes, so goal goes in. But what I also feel like we have to sort of credit noticeable names in the Welsh squad is that for Cymru's goal, we had almost like an identical situation where Hannah Kane has got this opportunity to go one-on-one against the goalkeeper. So this again, really good through ball. The defense is beaten. She's got the pace. She's a brilliant finisher, and this time you wonder how much of the Denmark games going through her mind. The last time she had an opportunity like this, Denmark score. So you're going up again one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and the composure to sit the goalkeeper down, take it to the right, play it round, and arguably I would say it's gone the wrong way. You've just made the goal at the angle harder, it's tighter angle, and yet with aplomb, with confidence, finished it. Yes, inside the post and back in, but that's bang on target. That's just so none of the defense could stop it, none of the goalkeeper could stop it. It was just the perfect positioning. And for somebody who ran well, was a threat all the way through both games, I think it was really deserving for her to get that goal. And like I say, you can see the stats there. Yes, of course, the home team had the advantage. Yes, there was a lot of goals, shots on target, or shots attempted. But the team as a whole were up to the challenge. But I think that was only possible in the second half because there was so many missed chances. Very early on, Sweden were just creeping past the post. There was there was one ball, there was a brilliant through ball across the goal mouth, and I don't know, it was just as if the striker just was mid-stride, was the wrong leg or something, and almost just watched the ball go in front of her, an open goal. So
Yeah.
I do think that on a different day, that's a Sweden putting 5 past us. But for 2 games now in a row, we've managed to compete and get a draw. So both our points in this group table against Sweden, who are the highest ranked team in the group, and we've matched them. So, and also, the defeats we've had have been narrow defeats. We're not being thumped. We're not being the whipping boys of any group. This is a really, really well contested and okay, it's disappointing that Italy won 3-0 against Denmark. I'm not sure many of us didn't see it coming, but certainly didn't hope that would be in the result, because it would have been nice if Italy could have dropped away a little bit. Maybe Denmark and Sweden would end up being the runaway horses in this group, and then it could be a bit of a battle with us and Italy then to stay in Group A, because the risk is that we're going to drop away, and inevitably we're going to get relegated. But if we could just be third and be in a playoff to stay in the Group A, and all the advantages that come with that are massive. So that's perhaps the only disappointment from the week of as a bunch of results. But I just think if we're going to want to see some indicators for the future with a major tournament coming up, what a way to prep your team. What a way to get good knowledge of your squad. If we've commented about the benefits of the Nations League as a friendly, the substitute for friendly games. What do you use them for? Is it about getting qualified, make qualifying easier by being in groups, getting into playoffs, getting second chances? Great. But I just think the whole point of friendlies is that you try new things, and Wilco's doing both. Successfully competing in a tournament that allows us some progress further on, but also we're seeing goalkeepers as much as any other player on the pitch. We've had to adapt our team because Carrie Holland wasn't available. Elise Hughes was back, which was great, because I do think she's a great forward and a different type of threat. Big number 9 position. Defenses don't like that. Long ball over the top, hold the ball up, whatever it is we need. Some real threat there. And I just think we've got range, especially when, dare I say it, Jess didn't come anywhere near these games, clearly carrying the injury from her domestic game. And she's already withdrawn now from the rest of the camp, and all. It was clearly that she's not going to be playing. So we've really got to hope that she stays fit, comes back well for the tournament, and Kerry, we talked about that as well. But it was great to see Hannah Kane on form. Rhiannon Roberts was brilliant in the engine room. Defense was, generally
Maisie Davis. I was so impressed by Maisie Davis. So somebody 18 years old Fantastic.
Oh, there's very little fear in that team. They don't fear anybody, and I think results like this, it doesn't matter if you lose to Denmark when you can also play like that against Sweden. I don't. I just feel like you can go in with at least some optimism that this is not going to be the whippings that we were getting years ago. And even up until about 3 years, 4 years ago, it wasn't that long ago. There would be the odd, really hard, difficult results to accept. So consistency is better now. The range of players all playing different positions. I think we're unpredictable. I don't think anybody's going to want to play us as much as we're in the group of death. I don't think anybody's going to want to play us. I don't think they know what's going to face them.
Now on the Eat Much Chips podcast, it's time for today's newspaper, tomorrow's chip paper, where we catch up on Cymru and Wrexham football news. First up, Wrexham Under-19 Women lost their game away at TNS Under-19s 2-0, which now takes the league into the final game of the season. Wrexham are at home this Friday at 7:45 p.m. BST and must win versus Connah's Nomads Under-19s to win the league. A draw would pass the chance to TNS, as a win versus Newtown would give them the title on goal difference. A TNS loss or a draw gives Wrexham the title. As Newtown's record for this season reads, played 11, won none, drawn none, lost 11, Wrexham will need to get that win versus Connah's Quay. On Tuesday, Wrexham Reserves took on Chesterfield Reserves and drew 2-2. Wrexham goals from Mo Fowl and Rio Owen. First team players involved in the game were Brad Foster in goal, Seb Revan, Josh Adam, Ollie Palmer and Mo Fowl. Paul Mullin wasn't involved at all. Wrexham are currently 7th in the league, and although all their games are completed, other teams around them still have games to play. Daz, Wrexham Under-19s Women's first, a disappointing result versus TNS, but they still have the title in their hands. Do you think they can do it?
Yeah, they've got every potential. There's nothing to suggest that that they can't win. They've been playing so well. Results obviously have gone in their favour and against them. So it's if it's in their hands, they know what they've got to do. Then make the most of this opportunity, because I think to be in the shadow of the senior teams and stuff like that, the focus. Maybe there's an opportunity to feature in a certain documentary about the younger squads this time around. So.
You never know. Jamie, good result for the reserves. Should we read anything into Paul Mullin not being involved?
I think like I touched on before, I think you could potentially read into it the fact that if Rodriguez's injury is likely to keep him out, certainly for this weekend, then that would make sense that Paul Mullin wasn't involved in the reserve game, because you'd assume he's the one that is next to step up into the matchday squad. Although that could be complete bullshit, and he could have just been left out for other reasons. Who knows? That's what I would read into it. You would assume, given that he was involved in the previous reserve game, in fact he wasn't involved in this one, maybe Parky's a little bit suspect on Rodriguez's injury and wants to keep Mullin fresh and in reserve for the matchday squad. Who knows? But it's still crazy, isn't it, that we're putting players out like Mo Fowl and Ollie Palmer, and didn't Ravan play in that as well?
Yep, did. Yep.
Yeah. Crazy to think that we're putting players like that in reserve games, but there we are.
Arthur Okonkwo won PFA Fans League One Player of the Month for March after a public vote. He's also been nominated for the EFL League One Player of the Month for March. He's nominated with Ashley Fletcher of Blackpool, Macaulay Gillespie of Charlton Athletic, and Jovan Makama of Lincoln City. Phil Parkinson has had his third nomination for Manager of the Month after spearheading 16 points from 7 games in March. Also nominated, Darren Ferguson from Peterborough United, Noel Hunt from Reading, and Nathan Jones from Charlton Athletic. Daz, do you think managers care about being nominated Manager of the Month?
No, I think obviously it's a nice nod. I think they know they've done a good job. They know what they've got to do in the league. I think there was a time, wasn't it, that there seemed to be some sort of curse around the idea of winning, manager of the month at any point, because as soon as you won that, your results were under more scrutiny, and then everyone realised, oh, you just lost the whole series of games. So I don't know. It's nice to be recognised by your peers for doing a good job, but surely the prize is promotion. That's when you can say you've done a good job, or not get relegated. It depends where your benchmark is, depends where that bar is. But for Wrexham at the moment, that's the bar that's been set, and he's doing a good job.
Cymru Women's under-19s hosted the Round 2 League A qualifiers, with the group winners qualifying for the final tournaments in Poland this summer. In a very tough mini-tournament, Cymru played France and lost 1-0. They then took on the Republic of Ireland and won 1-0, goal from Marit Griffiths. The last game was versus Serbia, who scored early, meaning Cymru needed to go for it. A ding-dong battle finally landed with a 95th minute penalty for Cymru, with Olivia Francis converting it, and Cymru snatched a 1-1 draw. France were outright group winners with 3 wins, but Cymru managed second place in this tournament. Daz, it was always going to be difficult for Cymru to win this group, and France absolutely dominated, but how pleasing was it to see the under-19s getting that second spot?
Oh, I mean, yeah, behind such a worthy winner as well, but to get that result in the way they did, I think it bodes well. It bodes well for the team coming through, next generation, because a lot of these young players are already fringe players for the seniors as well. So no, it's really important, and I just think that the momentum that we've got with both men and women's games, now that we're competing and genuine, qualifying, that when you see that, if you see a version of yourself in the future with the first team, to be able to do that at 19 now, I just think the 19s is just it's building that confidence. But I think it's also it demonstrates the legacy of, I want to play for Wales, and so people, more players, I think, who have that ability or that option, or there's a selection requirement. They've got to choose allegiances. Some who may have been tempted by England purely because, why would you play for Cymru? Because now that's not even a consideration. We are a competitive team. We are playing a great brand of football, and why wouldn't you want to be part of it? So I think everything about it is coming together so well, and the results now are coming, becoming more fruitful, which is just brilliant as we progress and hopefully find this period of success, maybe.
It broke this week that Wrexham Women have been included in the Hong Kong FC Soccer Sevens tournament sponsored by Standard Charter, playing in Hong Kong between the 16th and 18th of May. This is the 22nd edition of the tournament, although only the second time there's been a women's competition. There are 2 groups in the tournament, with Wrexham being drawn in Group B with Thailand team Chonburi FC and Singapore team Eastern Thunder FC. There is a mini-group stage with the top 2 teams going to the semi-final from the group, and then a knockout semi-final stage and a final. Each game is 2 7-minute halves. Jamie, this hasn't been broken officially by the club, but other podcasters such as Racecourse Ramble and Rob Bryan Red have broken it. Do you think this will be beneficial for the Wrexham Women to play in and attend this tournament?
My God, you asked me that question. I thought you were going to ask me about the opposing teams then, and what do I know about them?
Yeah, so what do you know about Eastern Thunder?
Yeah, they're from the east. Yeah, I heard this. I heard this like you on the other pods. Like you say, it's not been officially confirmed by the club. I think. Go on, Daz.
Well, it's on the South China Morning Post, so.
Woo! Get you reading the South China Morning Post.
I was going to say, I've got to ask, what are you doing reading the South China Morning Post?
Oh, I've cancelled my subscription to the New York Times, so I've.
It was either the South China Morning Post or the Sun, so I can see why you went for the South China
Razzle.
Morning Post. Yeah. Razzle, what's that? What's that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, I didn't really know anything about this until earlier today. It's an interesting, wasn't it? I think we well know how popular the game of football is in that part of the world, and for Wrexham as a brand, it's a bit untapped at the minute, isn't it? It's, we've talked before about obviously the rumours of the men's team going to Australia this summer, which makes sense given that the World Club Championship is on in America. So obviously there's going to be a lot of exposure for the Premier League teams and stuff during the summer. So it makes sense that they go somewhere else. Australia fits the bill. But I think the Far East is a bit of an untapped area for like I say, I hate to kind of use the term, but you know what I mean, the brand of Wrexham. And I think if they start trying to get exposure in that part of the world again, the whole thing could just go bloody berserk again. Obviously we've got such a huge international following now. I've no doubt that it'll go berserk again once it's exposed to that part of the world. So if this is a kind of a foot in the doorway of starting that process, then it makes sense. I mean, I think from what I heard, I think Wrexham are the only like Western team that have been invited, I think, aren't they? So the other teams are
Of the
all,
women, yes, because the other
yeah.
3 teams are all Hong Kong teams.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it might surprise you to hear, but I don't know what the kind of standard of women's football is in that part of the world. But, I don't know what kind of, level of competition we're talking about. But hey, if nothing else, like when the ladies went to America last year, it was a bloody great experience for them. To see that part of the world and experience that part of the world, and to represent the club. Yeah, all good. So it will be interesting to see when the club does officially announce these summer plans for the men's and the women's teams. It'll be interesting to see what actually is scheduled, because it's like the Australia thing with the men that's been talked about. They're not going to go all that way and play one game, So there's obviously more to it. So it'll be interesting to see once it's officially announced. But yeah, good for the ladies that will be involved and going to go over. Yeah, absolutely.
The chipper is running at full speed and the peas are bubbling nicely. It must be time for the chip shop. Daz and Jamie are on hand to stop next door's cat from stealing the fish. So first into the fryer tonight, it's Wigan Athletic. Another 12:30 kick-off, but this time on the road as Wrexham travel the short distance to Greater Manchester to play Wigan Athletic. Wrexham and Wigan last met in the final game of 2024, where Wrexham won 2-1, goals from Ryan Barnett and a 91st minute Stephen Fletcher game saver. Since then, Wigan have continued to struggle in the bottom half of the table, sacking manager Sean Maloney in March and appointing ex-Preston North End manager Ryan Lowe. They are currently 18th with 11 wins, 13 draws and 16 losses, a goal difference of -4 and 46 points. 7 points from the relegation zone. Their last 5 league results, a 2-1 loss away at Charlton Athletic, a 1-1 draw at home to Barnsley, a 1-0 loss at home to Bolton Wanderers, a 0-0 draw away at Leyton Orient, and a 1-1 draw away at Exeter. And the chips are done. Jamie, 5 games to go. Wycombe winning midweek starts to clear the picture as Wrexham are now 3 points ahead of Wycombe in 3rd, 7 points ahead of Stockport in 4th, and 8 points ahead of Charlton in 5th. They mathematically are guaranteed a playoff place, Wrexham. How vital is it that Wrexham get the points from this game?
It's getting exciting, this Chip Shop League, isn't it? It's getting very exciting. Well, not for Daz, but
no.
yeah, at least you won't have to pay the shipping to ship that trophy anywhere. But yeah, it's getting considering there was such a big gap not that long ago. It's getting very exciting.
Oh, don't.
I just before I forget this, you have to do a pie review when you go to this game.
I am.
You have to do a pie review. If you come on and do an away day packet of crisps review or something like that, I'm going to be fuming with you. Has to be a pie review.
Will do.
Yeah, well, I stupidly have got work at 12:30 for a couple of hours, so I'm not even going to be able to watch the game live, which is frustrating. But there you go. Yeah, this is one of the, how important is it that Wrexham win? Yes, it's not the be all and end all, is it? I think it's really, really important that as a fan base, if Saturday doesn't go our way, we don't lose our heads. Yes, a win or a draw at the very least would be preferable. Ideally, a win, but it's really important that we don't lose our heads if this game doesn't go our way. On paper, this should be a Wrexham win. Wigan, if you look at their last 5 results, as you read out at the start there, they've not won in 5 games. They don't score a lot of goals. Okay, they don't concede a lot of goals, but they don't score a lot of goals. They're not pulling up any trees. I think they're probably safe. They're not in any relegation threat, but they're certainly not going to do anything else. So they're very much one of those mid-table, nothing really to play for. But as we well know, every time a team comes up against Wrexham, there's that Wrexham factor, isn't it? There's everybody raises their game. I think they will feel a little bit hard done by maybe after the result at the racecourse, because we were lucky to get away with a win on that day. To be fair, but I would love to see us go at them from the start. But I've said that before. We've said that this season, and it's just not how Parky plays. He's very much. It's all about. It's very much about sitting back, absorbing the pressure, and catching on a break, isn't it? Not conceding. That's the mantra: is not conceding a goal. So I don't envisage we'll approach it any differently. But I'd say I would like to see us go at them because I think they are there for the beating. The key to this is the fact that this is very much in our hands, isn't it? Like we said before, we talked about before, regardless of what happened on Tuesday night with Wycombe winning their game in hand. And do you know what? Credit where credit's due. Pressure was on them. Yeah, Huddersfield were shite, but credit where credit's due to Wycombe. Pressure was on them. Everybody was the eyes were on them. They're away from home. It was their game in hand. And for a long time in that game, it looked like it was just going to be a damp squib of a game and a draw, and they would drop 2 points. But they found a way and they found a winner. So hats off to them. But regardless of that, it's still in our hands, isn't it? And if we do our thing and look after our business, then it's there for us. So it starts with this game. This is, on paper, it's very much a game we should be winning. Whether it'll be a walk in the park, I highly doubt it because that's just not the Wrexham way. But I'm confident, although it is a potential banana skin. I am confident that we can go to Wigan and get a result on Saturday. Obviously, it'd be a massive away following, 4,000+, isn't it? Massive away following, be a great atmosphere, I'm sure. I'm gutted that I can't go. I'm gutted I can't even watch it. But I'm a flopperhead because again, as you pointed out on another podcast this week, Daz has been to more away games than I have this season. So I'm just a flop. I'm just a flopperhead faux supporter. I am. So yeah.
Wow, you really are upset by that. That's unbelievable. It's very rare you get upset by anything I say, so that's nice.
No. I'm not upset. I'm not upset at all. Just sick of hearing you on different podcasts this week. Everywhere I turn, I'm expecting to turn Joe Rogan on tomorrow and hear you on there talking shit. Yeah, but no, like I say, on paper, a game we should absolutely be winning. I'm sure it won't be straightforward, but I'm confident we can get a result.
Yeah, my only fear is 4,500 of us going somewhere. Halifax is the word that keeps sitting into my head. Remember that when we all went there and that ended up a disaster as well.
I get the analogy and the thought process about that. I don't even want to say it, but I'm thinking Blackpool away could be more Halifax with then Charlton the following week as the Notts County. That's setting up to me at this moment to be potentially another Notts County game, but I hope it won't come to that. But anyway.
No, definitely not. Does Wrexham have automatic promotion in their hands, as Jamie has rightly said? At this late stage of the season, what is going to get them over the line? And don't just say 5 wins, because that's obvious.
You see my script. The playoff place is safe. Your money for charity is safe. You've got the bendy bully in the tankard. You've got your tankard ready to take home. So you've got nothing else you've got nothing to lose at this sense. I think you have to sort of go for the win each time because the risk of the defeat there's no. I just don't see the benefits, of just saying, well, as long as we stay secure and we make sure we stay in this game and then we get the draw, all it takes is Wickham takes a couple of wins. You've got to always be going for the attack. If you don't win, of course, you've got that cushion of knowing then that's fine. If Wickham do leapfrog, then it's okay. But you've got to feel that you gave it a go. You've got to feel that it was a full throttle Wrexham making the most of this opportunity, because I we've said before, didn't expect you to be there. I don't think many people expected them to be in that situation. Automatic, not automatic.
Mm,
Yeah, you
all
said
right,
six,
but
Jamie. You said
yeah,
six.
but I was.
No. I'm just saying automatic,
Oh,
and I
all
just
right.
and I just think nobody expected that, and I think whatever happens with the championship, and then when you come back down next year, um,
Thanks.
Oh,
I
Wow.
don't know.
that's the cat shit to PO box.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm jesting because we don't know. We don't know. I just don't. I just think next time, even in this league again, the getting this good a run and this as not easy but as successful a run for promotion doesn't come. You've got it's all in your hands. It's everything to play for. I think you just got to go for it because we just don't know what next season. Like I said, I'm jesting about whether or not you get relegated, but you just have no idea what this is going to be
No.
like. So.
And I told the story this week that you were a secret Wrexham fan because your first shirt was a Wrexham shirt.
No, I am. I'm not secret. I follow Wrexham, but I'm also from West Wales, so I follow the Jacks, and I also live in Cardiff, so I follow Cardiff. And a friend of mine is a Newport County, one of
All right. Don't swear on the podcast, for goodness sake. Jamie, Jay Rodriguez and George Dobson are both fighting to be fit on Saturday following the early exit versus Burton. If they are both missing, who do you think Phil Parkinson will start with?
I think if Dobson's out, I think Elliot Lee comes in. Although he's not necessarily a like for like replacement from the effect he has on a game. Dobson's very much a defensive midfielder. Elliot Lee's very much an attacking midfielder, but obviously they play in and around the same area. That to me is the obvious one. I think you could be forgiven for saying, well, why don't you bring George Evans in? He's the more natural replacement for Dobson, but you're at such a pivotal point in the season now. With the greatest respect, as much as I think George Evans is a great player, he's not Matt Sharp, is he? He's not played a competitive game for since the Arthur Daly, has he? So no, you're not got it lined up. Oh, honestly,
I've ignored that now because we're in the
Honestly.
championship. We don't bother playing in it, so I've just binned it.
honestly, that's
I
just
like that thinking.
just-
I like that thinking.
no, that's just papering over the inefficiencies of
All right,
our
but
technical expert.
There, happy now?
Brilliant. Yeah, he's not played a competitive game since he last played in that, which was a couple of months ago now. So I can understand why Parky would be very hesitant to do that because he's not even been on the bench, so it'd be a big risk to bring. Even though he's fit, he's not match sharp, is he? So if Dobson's out, I think Lee is the natural replacement, albeit it's a more offensive approach. Rodriguez is the interesting one, isn't it? And I mean this in the nicest possible way, but if he is out, it may not be the end of the world because, yes, he scored a couple of goals recently, penalties. I have been one of the fan base who is struggling a little bit to see what it is he's contributed since he's come in. Yes, I think he has improved. I think if you're being fair to him, he has improved in recent games, but I still don't think he is influencing and affecting games as much as I would expect him to. So if he wasn't able to play, it may not be a bad thing. However, the issue is whom is his replacement? Because I think we're all in agreement Fletcher can't do a 90 minutes. So do you take the gamble of starting Fletcher and trying to get 60 minutes out of him and seeing if you can get the game sewn up in that time? Or do you go with a Jack Marriott? I would say that's the most likely option. It would be Smith and Marriott, which would then potentially open up a place on the bench for a certain Paul Mullin. But who knows? Who knows? I think ultimately, if Rodriguez is fit, he plays, because I think Parky's shown his hand with his team, hasn't he? Subject to fitness. I think Rodriguez is a starter for the rest of this season if he's available.
So, time for the salt, vinegar, and sauce Koch. Jamie, what's your score prediction for Wigan Athletic versus Wrexham?
I was going to go for a dash special 1-0, but I'm going to go for a 2-0 Wrexham win.
Woo, get you. Daz, what's your score prediction for Wigan Athletic versus Wrexham?
Well, in the interest of making this a contest, I am going to go for my 1-0.
2.
No, 1.
No, yeah.
1-0 to Wrexham.
Honestly.
And I'm predicting Wigan Athletic 1, Wrexham 2. It's getting tougher, and there still may be a potential banana skin on our away travels. Of the 3 away games, this on paper is the easiest, although at this point anything can happen. But Wigan played on Tuesday. They have a terrible home form. Wrexham will be taking 4,000 plus fans, and I'm banking on the boys turning up and doing the job. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And next into the fryer tonight, it's TNS Women. The final Gennaro Adran game of the season sees Wrexham Women take the short trip across the border to TNS for a 5 p.m. BST kickoff on Sunday. Although Wrexham can't get second, the situation is simple. Wrexham win and they finish third. Wrexham draw and they finish third. Wrexham lose and they finish fourth. Wrexham commentator and Final Whistle podcast host Mark Griffiths did a Phase 2 table, and if the points were reset for Phase 2, Wrexham are top with 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. TNS are bottom with 1 win and 4 losses. And the chips are done. Daz, Wrexham back on the back of the Cardiff performance. Can you see them finishing the season in style?
Yeah, I think I can see them playing with confidence. I can see them playing. My concern is for Wrexham is that and we saw it against Cardiff. They still played their first team. They have this very strong first team. My concern for the team is when they need to dig a little bit deeper into the strength and depth of their squad. Not so much, and they can't afford to rest now with the cup final coming up. What do you do? Do you not risk anybody? But because they say, what's the value of this? There is absolutely no value. I don't think it affects much of the income. I don't think it changes anything in terms of TV streams or anything like that. There's no European place. There's just no benefit to it. So it is going to be a warm-up game, their last game to play against a competitive team before going to the cup final. So I'd like to think they're going to want to compete. They're going to want to play well. They're going to want to maybe try some fringe players, but they're unlikely to want to risk though going in with a defeat under their belt. I think they're going to want to keep that winning mentality and stay fresh, stay alert, stay familiar, and so I imagine they're going to play their first team. Maybe with 1 or 2 positions change, maybe, but I just don't see how Wrexham can afford to lose this momentum because that's what's kept them going. This second half of the season, we keep saying it's been such a dominant opportunity, and I hadn't seen those statistics about had the Part 2 league reset, they'd be top. But equally, a team like Cardiff probably took the foot off the gas because they were so far ahead. So it's a slightly unrealistic thing. Now, the opponents, TNS, they've had a bit of a mixed bag of a season, haven't they? Between doing well in a trophy, then doing well to get into the top half of this before the split, but then dropping away. It's been a bit of a weird one. So I think they're probably disappointed that it's come to this, that there's nothing to play for them. They've got nothing to lose. They'll probably put out their first team. So I think this could be quite the close match because it's the mindsets of the 2 teams are going to be just so different. It's just going to be so different. say, there's no relegation at stake. There's no promotion or anything like that. So it's just everything about it feels a dead rubber. It's a different type of prep for Wrexham. So it's a really difficult one to predict in terms of what team they put out. But I do think TNS will be a challenge. I think they'll be up for it. I think they'll they've shown that they can beat the top teams. They've shown they can beat the top teams. So won't be an easy game. I think that's my thinking.
Jamie, after how the season started for Wrexham, is there much difference between finishing third and finishing fourth?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure as competitors, they will want to finish as high as possible. I think, like Daz just said, I think the statistics around what would have happened if the points were reset at the halfway point are quite telling. And I think Wrexham will take. Ultimately, they will take the most satisfaction out of what's happened in the second half of this season. I mean, we spoke when we talked about the game earlier on about the impact of Albion and I can't say it now. That's I blame this. The impact of Abby Eddington and Ava Suckley in the second half of this season have been unbelievable, and I think, like Daz just said, momentum is a big thing, and I think that's played a big part in the second half of this season because it's just grown and grown and grown and grown. So I think they will want to get third because it's only a position. It doesn't really mean anything. There's no significance to it. But if they can finish this season in third place and then go back and assess the season as a whole, considering how poor the first half of the season was, I think they'll take that as a really, really good a good return on the season as a whole. So I think it is important that they will want to finish third. But the most important thing for this game on Sunday is to keep that momentum going into the cup final.
So time for the salt, vinegar and sauce. Koch, Daz, what's your score prediction for TNS Women versus Wrexham Women?
This is the hardest one, isn't it? For a while, this one I can't. Yeah. Okay. Because of it's an away game. I am going to go for my gut feeling, which my first score I written down here was 2-2.
Oh, excellent. Jamie, what's your score prediction for TNS Women versus Wrexham Women?
See, I was going to go for 2-2 as well, but
Desmond.
Yeah.
Desmond 2-2.
Desmond 2-2.
Brilliant.
It's an age thing, clearly.
I thought you were talking about Desmond's the sitcom. I'm gonna, just to be a bit different, and because this whole chip shop debacle is getting quite interesting, I'm gonna go for a 2-1 Wrexham win.
And I'm predicting TNS Women 2, Wrexham Women 3. TNS will want to make a statement from their last game of the season, and we'll see both coming fourth and losing to Wrexham as a real blow, considering how they started. This will be a physical game, and Wrexham need to manage the team to make sure they're fully fit for the cup final next week. So let's wrap those chips up to keep them warm. And we'll be reviewing these games in next week's pod.
Come and see the Reds with me, and you will swear that you have seen a vision. We know just how they feel when they beat the life and feel. We're off to the second division.
That's it. Time to move along until next time. You've been listening to the Eat More Chips podcast, the official podcast, one of the greatest Welsh supporters flags in the universe. If you have enjoyed listening to us, please support the podcast, like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You can find us on audio at Spotify, Apple, and YouTube Music. You can also go into our social media, such as X, Threads, and Blue Sky, at TweetMoreChips, or drop us an email, eatmorechipspodcast, all one word, @gmail.com. Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, Eat More Chips Podcast, and on Facebook, search for the Eat More Chips Podcast group. You can leave us a review if the platform you're listening to lets you do so, and if anything particularly you'd like us to discuss, please feel free to drop us a line. Thanks as always to the North Wales folk band The Harvesters and their 1978 Wrexham football song for our pod music. Two people who will be here until we finally get into the Premier League are my two co-hosts, as they love a good story. Ask their better halves. They'll tell you that for certain. So, thank you, Jamie.
My pleasure.
And thank you, Daz.
You're welcome.
I've been Welsh Techie, not opposed to spinning a yarn or two myself. And so, until next time, come on, Cymru, and come on the town.